I'm of the mind that the the war with Iran is going, not maybe, not if, it's going to crash the global economy. And this is I'm not trying to run a political thing here or get too deep into politics. I'm more so trying to talk about it from the spiritual perspective, right, or the psychological perspective, and I guess the sociological perspective, because that's more so like the talking points and more so the kind of things that I'm more so well versed in, right? But and it connects to that because this is a situation where people are actively getting sent to the spirit realm or back to the lobby, maybe as some may say. So the this whole conflict, the thing that's gonna really cause this to happen is the Strait of Hormuz. I think that's how you say it. Hamas. It's the Strait of Hormuz, right? So the thing about the Strait of Hormuz is that mm, about 20% of the oil, a quarter of the global oil, comes from there. And certain places, major importers like India and China and Japan, get half to the majority. I think Japan gets like 70% of their oil or 75% of their oil from the Strait of Hormuz. India gets like 50%, China gets like 50%, right? At the time that I am making this, the date is March 7th, 2026. Gas prices around where I live in Florida has already jumped up to the range of 340, 350 per gallon for regular gas, right? Uh, to my knowledge, from what I remember, most trucks take diesel fuel, and it's trucks that carry a lot of the goods and products that we buy, right? Not even just oil. So that's going to contribute to that as well because I didn't see the price of diesel, but diesel's always more than regular. So if regular's at 340, 350, diesel's got to be at 390, $4, maybe in some places, maybe even 420 already, right? And at this point in time that I'm recording this, the Strait of Hormuz has not been closed by Iran. Uh, Trump has announced plans to hit them very hard. He said Iran's going to get hit very hard, which means there's going to be more bombs dropping, right? More death coming, right? So I think I'm of the mind that after that happens, once things get escalated to a further extent, that there's going to be a 100% shutdown, right? So I pulled up some official stats about the Strait of Hormuz, right? So 20% of global oil, which is 20 million barrels, right? And 20% of global LNG flows through it daily. Daily. 20 million barrels daily, right? And major exporters like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iraq, Kuwait, and Qatar rely on that strait, right? Oh, and I should probably mention that LNG is liquefied natural gas, right? So, and this matters, this thing being shut down, because Iran can disrupt it, right? With through the mines, drones, missiles, threats to ships, even without fully closing it, right? So insurance spikes, ships start avoiding it, and traffic halts, right? Shipping is already near a standstill, and oil prices are surging, right? And apparently, right now at this point, they're at about $90, a little bit over $90 per barrel. And from something when I looked up earlier, that or actually no, I have it right here in front of me. Right, so basically, this whole thing is kind of like the if the world's gas pump was getting blocked, right? Oil and energy, there's going to be an oil and energy price shock, right? So at this point, prices have already spiked 20 to 30%. Uh, the barrels are at about $90 per barrel. It's going to jump to about 100 to 120, probably higher than that, right? So basically, like I already mentioned, a lot of these trucks, like for instance, right, at the local grocery store where I'm at, a box of cereal, they all range from about $6 to $8, right? That's about the price, right? So the thing that most people probably don't think about is that the food and the products that we buy, they don't just pop up there. They don't just pop up in stores, right? They get there somehow, right? They get there usually on a truck, usually on a truck that needs fuel. And usually these trucks need diesel fuel, as I mentioned, right? So higher oil means higher fuel, higher shipping, higher manufacturing, which equals higher food costs, right? So basically that $6 to $8 box of cereal is now going to jump to about $10, right? Somewhere between 10 and 15, right? So basically from the statistics that I have in front of me, it says with the inflation on the inflation surge in regards to this, right? Basically, it says every $10 oil increase adds 0.4 to 0.7% to global inflation, right? So, so this relates to everything, right? Because remember, think about all the things that need gas. It's not just cars. It's not just trucks, right? Even planes as well. So this is going to cause anything that requires the use of oil. It's going to cause that to jump up, and it's going to go up, right? It's going to cause a ripple effect. And now I'm trying to cross this over because, like I said, I want to kind of get into the psychology, sociology, and those kind of parts about it, right? But this people are already having a hard enough time as it is, right? People are still going to have mortgages to pay, right? Like when prices go up on everything, the the company that you owe your mortgage to, I guess the bank, right? Whoever loaned it to you, right? They're not gonna call you and say, "Hey, we understand prices are so high, so we're gonna lower your interest rate. As a matter of fact, we're gonna cut your mortgage in half." Right? Like, no, it's still gonna be the same price. Your car payment is still gonna be the same price, along with all these things, right? So and now let's say something happens to your car, like you need a new transmission, God forbid, right? It's gonna cost even more to get those parts. And God forbid you gotta get the part shipped in or sent to you, right? So we're already, as I said, dealing with things in regards to cost and how that's affecting people, right? And people's mentality or their psyche, let me say, has already been on the downslide. Mental health is on the downslide, right? And a big part of that is kind of like just a human fact that I like to mention this quite a bit, but everybody needs shelter, food, and transportation, right? So, and those things are already bad enough and already out of reach enough for a good majority of people. Like you can statistically look it up. There's literally not enough jobs that pay people enough money. Like basically jobs that pay people enough money to have their own apartment, uh, a, a mid-grade vehicle like a Honda from like 2010, right? And their own cell phone. All the cost of all that together, there is not enough jobs out there for the majority of people to be able to afford that, right? So with this in adding with everything getting more expensive, right? I further see it having an effect on people that makes people more lost, that makes people more hopeless, right? A lot of people are already on the verge of giving up or just, kind of just having a whatever kind of attitude about things, right? Because when people don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, like let's that's probably actually the perfect analogy. Let's say you're in a dark, dark tunnel, right? Dark, dark tunnel. If there is no light, or if you can't see no light, or if the pathway is blocked up, even if you know you're in a tunnel, right? If the pathway is blocked up, or there's only kind of a crack of light shining through, and the rocks aren't moving out of the way, even if there's that tiny glimmer of light in there, you're probably going to start to basically simply put your eyes are going to start adjusting to the darkness, right? And I think that's I wouldn't call it a concern because I'm kind of just of the belief and of the knowledge that the world is going to get worse and it's designed to get worse, right? But I guess you could say it's something I'm vigilant of, or something that I'm alert of, right? The way how these things are mentally affecting people. Because basically you have the, I don't know if it'd be called a phenomenon, but what we call crashing out, right? Which, for those who aren't familiar with the terminology, right? Crashing out is basically like, people, how we all have our regular lives that we're living or whatever. You may have a job, or you may have, like, your relationship, your family, and all that. It's people who get so fed up with a particular situation, or just with life period, that they do what's called crashing out, right? So picture, say, somebody who has a job at McDonald's, right? And they're doing good, right? But maybe things in their life isn't so good. They can't save up money for anything. A couple of bills are backing them up, right? And it's just really the hope of continuing their life, or maybe they have maybe they have, like, they like to play video games, or they have some kind of art form they like to do. Maybe they make YouTube videos, I don't know, but whatever you want to use for the example, right? But basically, despite all the things that they could have going for them, and positive, productive things that they could be doing, right? Let's say somebody comes in and complains about their chicken nuggets, and they say, "Sir, I'm sorry about your chicken nuggets," right? And the person is just fed up, and the person starts, like, cursing them out and berating them, right? Situations like these lead people, or kind of contribute to people like that being in the mode of crashing out, right? So in that situation, instead of the person just thinking, like, you know what, I don't gotta pay attention to this idiot, let me just do my job, da 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 da, right? They might take those nuggets and throw it at the customer, right? They might get violent, attack them, hit them, right? So, and that's just a light example of crashing out. If I'm pretty sure everybody has examples of much harder crash outs than that, but that's what leads to these kinds of things, right? The economic strain, and people are still going to be getting let go from job. There's going to be people who go back to their jobs and light it up, if you catch my drift, right? And that's really the, like I said, the things that I'm vigilant of when it comes to things like this, right? Because obviously the economics of America and the world aren't at the best place at this point in time, right? Like I already mentioned, everybody needs food, transportation, and housing, right? And a good majority of people really, really, really cannot afford housing, and housing has an effect on people's ability to live, right? Right, like the housing situation has a strong effect on people's ability to have families, right? And basically just live a productive life. People are less likely to crash out when they have things they have hope in, or at least things that they have. I'm trying to think of the term, but I guess you could say things that they own, things that they have autonomy over, right? Because no matter what, when you're living under and living with other people, whether it be your mom, your dad, aunts, uncles, whatever family members, even if you have roommates, right, you're subject to other people, right? And I think that's an aspect of something else that's driving people crazy in this world as well, too, right? So, but basically, to connect this back to the situation of the Iran war and it crashing the economy, right? The basic gist of what I'm getting at in regards to how I'm thinking about it is just the effect that the ripple effects of this whole thing is going to have on people, right? And even though I kind of have a bit of a what they call a black pill view of the world, right, of things being point blank, period, or understanding things as they actually are, right? It's a bit tragic of a thing, right? That due to the fact that human beings were these squishy, soft beings that need to eat, and we can't sleep outside because we might get attacked by animals and stuff, and we're slow and stuff, so walking around all the time, that's not the best way to be productive, and we won't get nothing done, right? Due to these aspects of life, right? That's really kind of the central piece to all of these issues, all of these problems, and all of these kinds of conflicts, right? Because at the end of the day, the real point of politics is really the control over economics and economic decisions, right? What gets funded and why? Where does the money go and why, right? Programs, education, military slash militia efforts, right? all of that is connected to politics, right? Even our system of capitalism that we have right now, or all the systems of governing that we have right now, whether it's capitalism, communism, those all came, or both of those, let me say, came to be because, like, from the back to the Middle Ages, because the end of the Middle Ages was when the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and all that, right? But from that point in time, going all the way back to the ancient world, for the most part, it was monarchies, right? I don't think democracy even popped up as an idea until around what they call the classical period, like like ancient Rome and ancient Greece, right? Well, I think Rome was a republic and Greece was a democracy, right? But basically, most of human history, we're used to things running like monarchies, which is closer to a dictatorship, right? But so basically, it just goes to show, because the whole reason why those systems came about, I mean, like, democracies and republics, was because of how monarchies were affecting people and people not liking it, right? Because basically, a lot of decisions economically that were affecting all the people of a certain zone and strips of land, nations and nation states, right, was really under the jurisdiction of a king, queen, and their little cabal of people like the dukes and all that kind of stuff, right? So the the thing that's interesting is how all these things connect to the human condition, right? And out of the human condition is where sprung all these issues, right? So beyond all that, I just think we need to be aware, uh, be careful, right? Be patient, right? Because you're going to see people more irritable. You're going to see, because like I said, just simply the amount of people that drive like Ford F-150s and cars that take diesel fuel. Right now, their gas, they already pay like $50, $60 to fill up their tank. They're going to have to start paying 100 plus however much it costs for any repairs on their car, right? Like all these things have a strong effect on the mental and the psyche of people, right? So be alert, be careful, and beware. And do your best not to crash out.